Got algebra.
You'll never use it. But this, it'll solve all kind of problems.
Everything we thought we knew about the Dutton Ranch Season 1 finale might be completely wrong. For months, fans have believed that Joaquin was the one who pulled the trigger and killed Rob Will. It looked obvious. The show practically wanted us to believe it. But what if that was exactly the point? What if the biggest twist of Season 2 is that Joaquin never actually killed Rob Will at all? There are several clues hidden throughout the finale that most people completely overlooked, and if these clues are true, then Season 2 is about to change everything we thought we knew about the war between the Duttons and Ten Petals. The truth could destroy alliances, expose the real mastermind behind the attack, and completely change Bula's relationship with everyone around her. So today, we're breaking down why Joaquin may actually be innocent, who the real killer could be, and how this shocking twist could set up the biggest storyline of Dutton Ranch Season 2. Ever since the finale aired, everyone has accepted one version of events without asking too many questions. Joaquin confronted Rob Will, emotions were running high, a gun was fired, and Rob Will ended up dead. On the surface, it seemed like an open-and-shut case. Even Joaquin himself appeared devastated after everything happened, almost as if he knew there was no turning back. But the more you look at that entire sequence, the less it adds up. One thing this series has consistently done is mislead the audience before revealing the real truth later. We've seen characters blamed for things they didn't do, we've seen secrets hidden until the perfect moment, and we've watched entire storylines flip upside down because of one unexpected revelation. That makes me believe the finale wasn't giving us answers. It was giving us a carefully crafted illusion. The biggest question is simple. Why would Joaquin kill the very person whose death would instantly destroy his own future? Yes, the brothers had disagreements. Yes, they were fighting over power. But Joaquin has always been shown as someone who thinks several steps ahead. Unlike Mariano, who rules through fear and violence, Joaquin has usually relied on patience. He understands that every decision creates consequences. Killing Rob Will in front of everyone would immediately put suspicion on him, destroy whatever trust Bula still had, and create chaos inside Ten Petals. That's not a smart move. That's the kind of emotional mistake we normally see other characters make, not Joaquin. Then there's his reaction immediately after Rob Will's death. Most viewers interpreted it as guilt. I actually think it looked more like shock. There's a huge difference between someone feeling guilty because they committed murder and someone realizing they'd just been framed for one. Joaquin looked confused. He didn't celebrate. He didn't act relieved. He didn't look like someone who had finally achieved power. Instead, he looked like a man whose entire world had just collapsed in front of him. If his goal was to eliminate his brother, why wasn't there even a small sense of victory? Instead, he looked completely broken. Another detail that keeps bothering me is how quickly everyone accepted Joaquin as the killer. Nobody stopped to question whether someone else could have benefited from Rob Will's death. In television, whenever every character immediately agrees on one explanation, it's usually because the real explanation hasn't been revealed yet. The writers want the audience to stop asking questions. But this show has never been that simple. Every major conflict has layers beneath the surface, and this one feels exactly the same. Now think about Mariano for a second. He's built his entire empire by manipulating people against each other. He doesn't always need to pull the trigger himself. Sometimes all he has to do is create the perfect situation where everyone else destroys each other. If Mariano wanted complete control over Ten Petals, what better way than letting everyone believe Joaquin murdered his own brother? Suddenly, Joaquin loses Bula's trust. The family begins falling apart. Nobody knows who to believe anymore. And while they're all fighting each other, Mariano quietly becomes the most powerful man left standing. That's exactly how someone like him operates. There's also the possibility that another player has been hiding in plain sight this entire time. We know there are people inside Ten Petals whose loyalty changes depending on who offers them the better deal. One betrayal is enough to completely change the story. Imagine if someone secretly working for Mariano fired the fatal shot while Joaquin was distracted. In that situation, Joaquin would spend the entire next season trying to prove his innocence while everyone around him believes he's a murderer. That would instantly create one of the most emotional storylines the series has ever had. At the same time, this theory makes Bula's future even more interesting. Right now, she has every reason to believe Joaquin betrayed the family. But if she slowly uncovers evidence that someone else was responsible, everything changes. Her guilt would become overwhelming. She would realize she pushed away the one person who may have been trying to protect the family all along. And knowing Bula, once she realizes she's been manipulated, she won't stop until she uncovers the entire truth. The problem is that by then, the damage may already be impossible to undo. And while all of this is happening, Beth and Rip are still desperately searching for Carter. They don't know who they can trust anymore. If Joaquin truly is innocent, he could become one of the few unexpected allies capable of helping them take down Mariano. But if nobody believes him, he may be forced to fight alone while the real killer continues hiding in the shadows. That's exactly what makes this theory so exciting. Instead of Season 2 simply continuing the war we expected, it could completely redefine who the real enemies actually are. And if that's the direction the writers are taking, then the first trailer may have already been quietly pointing us toward the biggest twist of the entire series. If Joaquin really didn't kill Will, then the biggest question becomes incredibly simple. Who actually did? And honestly, I think Season 2 is going to spend a long time answering that mystery. This show has never been about random deaths. Every major killing changes the balance of power, and Will's death is no different. Someone planned for this to happen, and whoever is responsible knew exactly what the consequences would be. They didn't just eliminate one man. They started a war that could destroy every family involved. The first person we have to look at is Mariano. Throughout Season 1, Mariano proved that he doesn't solve problems with emotion. He solves them with strategy. Every move he makes pushes him one step closer to complete control. That's why I keep asking myself one question. What did Mariano actually lose after Will died? The answer is, almost nothing. In fact, he may have gained more than anyone else. With Will gone, Bula is emotionally broken. Joaquin becomes the prime suspect. 10 Petals begins falling apart from the inside. Meanwhile, Mariano suddenly has the perfect opportunity to tighten his grip on the organization without firing another public shot. Think about how dangerous that really is. When your enemies are busy blaming each other, they're not paying attention to you. That's exactly the kind of distraction Mariano would create. He understands that fear is powerful, but confusion is even more powerful. If nobody knows who to trust, then everyone becomes easier to control. And that's exactly the situation we're heading into at the beginning of Season 2. Another detail that caught my attention was how quickly the story moved away from the actual shooting itself. Usually, when a show wants the audience to know exactly what happened, it spends time showing every important detail. But here, everything happens so fast that there are still several unanswered questions. Was every angle shown? Did we actually see the fatal shot clearly? Was someone else hiding nearby? These are the kinds of questions fans usually ignore during an emotional finale, but they're often the exact questions the writers want us to ask later. There's also the possibility that Will had far more enemies than we realized. Throughout the season, he made decisions that upset people on both sides of the conflict. Some followed him out of loyalty. Others followed him because they had no choice. But loyalty built on fear never lasts forever. The moment people sense weakness, alliances begin to shift. It's possible someone close to Will had already decided that he needed to disappear long before that final confrontation ever happened. What makes this theory even stronger is Bula herself. She has spent years trying to hold her family together while watching power slowly tear everyone apart. If she eventually discovers that Joaquin has been blamed for something he never did, everything she believes will collapse overnight. She'll realize that someone manipulated her emotions at the exact moment she was most vulnerable. And once Bula starts looking for answers, she won't stop until she finds the truth, no matter how dangerous that journey becomes. At the same time, Beth and Rip have their own nightmare to deal with. Carter is still missing, and every second that passes makes his situation even more dangerous. But imagine if their search for Carter accidentally uncovers evidence about Rob Will's murder. Suddenly, these two storylines become connected. Beth and Rip aren't just fighting to rescue their son anymore. They're also getting closer to exposing the person who started this entire chain of events. And that's exactly why I think Season 2 is going to be much bigger than a simple revenge story. On the surface, everyone believes they know who the villain is. But underneath that, there may be another enemy quietly pulling the strings. Someone who benefits every time another family tears itself apart. Someone who wants Beth focused on Carter, Bula focused on Joaquin, and Mariano focused on expanding his empire. Because while everyone else is distracted, the real mastermind can continue operating without anyone suspecting a thing. If the first trailer is hiding clues instead of giving us answers, then fans should pay attention to every single conversation, every suspicious look, and every missing detail. Dutton Ranch has already proven that nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems. And if Joaquin has been carrying the blame for a murder he didn't commit, then Season 2 could deliver one of the biggest plot twists we've seen since the series began. The truth has been buried for now, but I don't think it's going to stay hidden for much longer. Here's the final section, written to match the same tone, pacing, and suspenseful style as your reference script. Section 5, Final. No matter which theory ends up being true, one thing is becoming very clear. Dutton Ranch Season 2 isn't just going to continue the story. It's going to completely change the way we look at everything that happened in the finale. If Joaquin really didn't kill Rob Will, then someone has successfully manipulated every major character into believing a lie. And once that lie starts falling apart, the consequences will be massive. I think the first person to uncover the truth could actually be Bula. She has spent years reading people better than anyone else, and deep down, I don't think she'll be able to ignore the small details forever. The more she thinks about that night, the more questions she'll have. Why did everything happen so perfectly for Mariano? Why did Joaquin look more shocked than victorious? And why does it feel like someone wanted the family to destroy itself from the inside? Once those questions begin, there's no going back. If Bula realizes Joaquin has been innocent all along, she'll be forced to make one of the hardest decisions of her life. She can either admit she was wrong and try to reunite what's left of her family, or continue believing the lie and watch everything collapse. Knowing her character, I don't think she'll sit back and let the truth stay hidden. She'll go after whoever is really responsible, even if it means risking her own life. Meanwhile, Beth and Rip won't have time to wait for answers. Carter is still out there, and every day he remains missing makes the situation even more dangerous. I expect Beth to become more fearless than ever before. We've already seen what she's willing to do for the people she loves, and with Carter's life on the line, I don't think there will be any limits anymore. Rip will be right beside her, and together they'll leave a trail of destruction until they finally find him. But here's where everything could come together. Imagine Beth and Rip uncover evidence during their search that proves Joaquin wasn't the killer. Suddenly, two completely different storylines collide. Saving Carter could also expose the person who murdered Rob Will. That would completely shift the balance of power and force every character to choose a side before the final battle begins. As for Mariano, I don't think he's as untouchable as he believes. If he really orchestrated this entire situation, then every secret he's been hiding will eventually come to light. Characters like Mariano usually stay in control because nobody knows the full truth. But the moment that truth is exposed, the empire they've built starts falling apart. And if there's one thing we've learned from this series, it's that power never lasts forever. Now, when can we actually expect to see all of this? At the moment, Paramount Plus has officially renewed Dutton Ranch for Season 2, but production is still moving through its early stages. Because of the behind-the-scenes changes and the scale of the next chapter, I still think a late 2027 release is the most realistic prediction. It may feel like a long wait, but if the writers are building toward a mystery this big, hopefully it'll be worth every second. So, what do you think? Was Joaquin framed from the very beginning? If he didn't kill Rob Will, then who do you believe pulled the trigger? And do you think Beth and Rip will rescue Carter before it's too late? Let me know your theories in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think, and don't forget to check out the next video because there's another hidden season 2 clue that almost everyone completely missed.